Welcome to Roaming Kitchen. Every roaming has a story. And today's story is about a beautiful music evening that I spent with one of my old colleagues who happens to be a Kashmiri Pandit. And the recipe that I'm going to show you today is of a dish called mushroom Rogan Josh. Now, you may wonder about this peculiar term, mushroom Rogan Josh, because you've never heard this before. Now let me tell you something very interesting. The Rogan Josh is a very popular recipe from Kashmir, and there are two styles of Rogan Josh. One made by the Kashmiri Hindu Pandits and the other made by the Kashmiri Muslims. And you would be surprised to know, during sub-zero temperatures in Kashmir, the Hindu Pandits consume mutton Rogan Josh. And here's a twist for you. We are going to make this using mushrooms, beans and potatoes. Let's get started by preparing the spice mix for this dish. Let's start off with using 3 nice spoons of Kashmiri red chili powder. This is what is going to give you a beautiful color. Next, we add in what they call salt. This is basically 1 tablespoon of dry ginger powder. Next goes in 1 nice spoon of hing or asafoetida. Remember, these are the most important ingredients to making a nice Kashmiri Pandit style Rogan Josh. Next goes in 1 spoon of fennel seeds or sauf, maybe 1.5 spoons. Now, the next thing that I'm about to add is completely optional, but here it is. 1 spoon of garam masala. This is completely optional, like I told you. Now I'm going to add in 2 crushed bay leaves, 2 black cardamoms or badi ilaichi, and 4 to 5 green cardamoms. Now we are going to also add a small bar of cinnamon. Although garam masala contains cinnamon, I'd like to add a little extra. And now we give this a nice mix. The spice mix is ready, and I'm pouring all the spice mix onto this. Now the next important step is to add oil. Now the idea is to make a nice lemon-sized ball out of this spice mix. Now make sure you add oil step by step and ensure that you turn this into a ball. It's moist. If you add a lot of oil, it's going to become very runny. Now take a look at this consistency. This is perfect. Now the idea is to make a nice mold out of this, alright, and create a small depression or a small hole in the center. Now you may wonder why I made a small ball out of the spices that we just ground and mixed. The idea is, what happens in Kashmir is, just like every other traditional Indian household, all the spices, the spice mix is made every year and used throughout the year. It could even be something as simple as garam masala. Now here's the interesting thing. Although the Kashmiri Pandits consume mutton and mutton Rogan Josh specifically, they do not use garlic in their cooking, and it's very interesting to observe. And the idea is that I saw some pictures from my Kashmiri friend's house back there in the valley, and it was very interesting to see what they made with the spice mix. So they create this hole and they sun dry this. This is sun dried, and once it attains a solid shape, a small thread is inserted and it is hung outside the house. So when you see a picture of their house or balconies, huge threads are hung with nice circular spice mixes like these, and they are used whenever they are required. And the idea behind making this was to just show you or let you know about the beautiful story or the practice that Kashmiris follow there. This spice mix in Kashmir is called Ver, V-E-R. It's called the Kashmiri Ver, and it's used in a variety of dishes. Now, let's also understand that if you are making this at home, you will just have to use the oil, which is mostly mustard oil. The oil which is mostly used in cooking a nice Rogan Josh is mustard oil. I know some people like to add ghee as well, but from what I've observed or from what I've understood from my friends who are from Kashmir, they use mustard oil specifically to make this, and you can just temper the oil and directly include these spices. Now let's begin cooking this. To a nicely hot pan, add in strictly mustard oil, and make sure you add oil liberally. The oil is hot. Now I do not have a nicely sun-dried Kashmiri ware, but this is the mix. Okay, if you have the sun-dried one, just make sure to add some water into it and make it loose. Now I have added this into mustard oil. Now to this, add in a cup of nicely whisked curd. Okay, there should be no lumps. Make sure you break the lumps. Now add in salt as per your taste. I'd like to add 2 small spoons. Once that starts spluttering, I'd like to introduce the potatoes, some beans, and in the end, go in the mushrooms. Give that a nice mix. Coat all these vegetables well. Well, now if you are using meat, you know what to do. You have to do the same thing. Coat all the meat with this mix. As for the next step, add in a good amount of water, because this is actually a very thin dish. The texture of this dish is very thin. Add in a good amount of water. I've added almost half a bottle or half a liter. That's about it. Now you make sure you give this a good mix again and close this and allow this to cook for at least 10 minutes and leave it on simmer. The Rogan Josh is actually a dish which is a part of the Kashmiri Wazwan, which means a grand Kashmiri meal, and it's one of the most important elements or one of the most important dishes. Now let's understand Rogan Josh. The term Rogan is Urdu or Persian for fiery, red, or something really hot. And Josh, most of you must be knowing, Josh is, I think, passion or good spirit, right? And Rogan Josh, the meaning of the dish is in the name. Nice fiery red dish. After 10 minutes of covering and cooking this in simmer, this has come to a nice cook. Now for the final step, okay, give this a nice mix, and I'm about to show you a quick trick. What you need to do after giving this a final mix is switch the gas off and cover this with a lid for another 10 minutes, and you will see what happens after that. You will now understand why I asked you to keep this covered for 10 minutes. Take a look at this magic. All the red color from the bottom has risen to the top and is floating beautifully, and that red oil floating on top is the Rogan or Roghani. Alright, now let's see or understand how this can be served well. I'm first going to dip in and pull all the vegetables out. You see the color is different here. Once you are done doing that, make sure you pick up some of the nice Roghani or the Rogan from top and serve that. And here you have a very lovely, beautiful, aromatic Kashmiri Pandit style mushroom Roghani. And there you have the amazing mushroom Roghani or the sabzi Roghani. Make sure you enjoy this with whatever base you like. I love to personally eat this with some nice boiled basmati rice or nice tandoori rotis. One last piece of information that I'd like to share with you here is one of the main ingredients used in making a Rogan Josh is the bark of a tree, and that's called Ratan Jot, or some people call it Ratan Jog. See if you can get hold of this spice or this bark, whatever the category it comes under. See if you have access to this. And if you remember, we added bay leaves and cardamom, but what usually goes in after you temper the oil is basically a nice piece of the bark of that tree. It's called Ratan Jog, and that's what gives it an amazing red color. It's a completely different shade of red that you can extract from it. And I'd once again like to thank my dear Kashmiri friend Mr. Kamal Pandit for showing me this recipe. And dear vegetarians, non-vegetarians and food lovers, if you wish to try a nice bowl of Rogan Josh, make sure you try and follow this recipe. Do not be in a hurry to go to a restaurant, because what they want to do at the restaurant is add onions, tomatoes and all other things which are mostly not included in this dish, and all they try to do is achieve a nice red color. So once again, thank you for watching. Every roaming has a story. Thank you.